So now that you've learned what a trig ratio is, now we're going to learn how to use the trig ratios to solve right triangles. So we're going to do one of two things. You're either going to solve for an angle or you're going to solve for a side. If you're solving for an angle, you need to know two sides. Step one, we're always going to do step one. We're going to label our triangle. So looking at this first triangle, we always start by labeling the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the side that's across from the right angle. Then I want to figure out, well, what angle am I solving for, or what angle do I know? This one says solve for the specified angles to the nearest tenth. So this one we're going to solve for angle G. So angle G is my target angle. So from G, this side here is my opposite, and this side here is my adjacent. So step one, label my triangle. Done. Step two, I have to decide what trig ratio I'm going to use. So looking at this example, I know the hypotenuse side and I know the adjacent side. Since I know the adjacent and the hypotenuse, I'm going to use ka. So what does that mean? It means that I'm going to set up this ratio. The cos of an angle is equal to the ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse side. Then I'm going to fill in what I know. I'm trying to find the angle that will give me a ratio of adjacent to hypotenuse of 3 to 7. So I want to solve for angle G that has a ratio of 3 to 7. Now, 3 divided by 7 is 0.42857, so on, so on, so on, so on. I want to tell my calculator that for that ratio, tell me the angle that always gives that ratio of adjacent hypotenuse. So to do that, I always think about it as solving algebraically. The opposite of cos is inverse cos. This is how I remember which button to type in my calculator. So I'm going to type in the inverse cos, because I'm solving for G, of 3 divided by 7. All that tells my calculator is that I'm giving it the ratio. I want it to give me the angle. So if I type inverse cos bracket 3 divided by 7 unbracket. So you need the brackets because it's the inverse cos of 3 divided by 7, not the inverse cos of 3 then divided by 7. That will give you an error. Okay, so you're doing inverse cos of bracket 3 divided by 7 unbracket, and that gives you an angle to the nearest tenth of 64.6 degrees. All right, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try solving for angle E. And I know this one's a little letter. When you get the choice, you always label angles with capital letters, but it's not that they can't be labeled with little letters. So we are solving for angle E. Give it a go. Hopefully you've done this on your own and you are now unpausing the video and watching how I do this one. So step number one, I always label my triangle. So I've got hypotenuse. Across from angle AE is my opposite, and then my leftover is my adjacent. Then I'm trying to figure out which ratio I should use. So I know the opposite, I know the adjacent, so opposite adjacent, which means I'm going to use TOA. So then step number two, I'm going to decide on my trig ratio and set it up. So I'm going to say the tan of an angle is equal to the opposite as a ratio to the adjacent. And again, I don't know the angle. I'm solving for angle E now. So theta is like a generic symbol for angle. E is specific to this example. So the tan of angle E is equal to the ratio of the opposite side, which is 11, to the adjacent side, which is 20. And again, to solve for angle E, I'm going to type into my calculator inverse tan of 11 divided by 20. If you plug that into your calculator, inverse tan of bracket 11 divided by 20 unbracket, I get to the nearest tenth, 28.8 degrees. So that is how to solve for an unknown angle given two sides. The next video will be about how to solve for a side when you're given an angle in another side.